Simone Inzaghi, a former striker for Lazio who decided to stay at the club following his retirement, taking up coaching and managing responsibilities in the youth setup. This led to his first senior managerial job, being appointed on an interim basis after the sacking of Stefano Pioli. 5 years later, Inzaghi had led Lazio to one Coppa Italia in the 2018-19 season and two Supercoppa Italianas in the 2017 and 2019 season. This led to his appointment at Inter Milan. Today, we are going to look into Inzaghi as a manager and how he currently has his Inter Milan team playing one of the most unique styles of football of the modern era. Let's start with the build-up phase. A few key stats for this area to keep in mind is that Inter Milan make 4.4 passes per sequence. This is regarded as slow and intricate play. They have produced the second most build-up attacks in the Serie A this season, and their field tilt ranks at 56.03, which is quite low compared to other elite sides in Europe. The two main ways you'll see Inter Milan set up in build-up is in a 4-back with one in front in the pivot, or with three at the back with two in front in the pivot. Inter Milan create this back four using an asymmetric build-up pattern where one of the wing-backs pushes higher and the other wing-back is available as a deeper full-back in the back four with the three centre-halves. Another option for Inzaghi's side is pushing one of the other pivot players higher up and almost creating a 3-1 in build-up, maybe to go a bit more direct at times and to go through the press, as you can see here with four Napoli players going man-to-man. Here is another example of that asymmetric build-up, with Dumfries playing as the right fullback in this scenario in the back four, and DiMarco is pushed right up on the left-hand side, almost acting as a left winger, which is an asymmetric build-up towards the right-hand side of the pitch. In these sequences of play, Inter Milan will look to tilt the pitch towards one side, so in this instance it's towards the right side of the pitch. By doing this, they're looking to leave DiMarco, the wing-back, in an isolated zone on his own, so that when he receives the ball he can attack the box, and he's probably only going to have one man on him, the full-back, to attack 1v1, therefore leaving him in a 1v1 isolation. This is an example of this, but towards the right side of the pitch, where there's a free man on the right, and Çalhanoğlu manages to pick the ball over the top into the channel for him to attack the box and get 1v1 with the fullback. Coming up on screen now is how Inter Milan form these build-up patterns, and it is through something that we're going to talk about in a minute because it isn't as simple as it looks. You've probably noticed that they all make this same back four asymmetric shape, that one showing the centre mid at right back, which often Barella does to make that back four and allow one of either the right wing back to go higher or the right centre back to push forwards. This video shows how some of the players can interchange, with the DM dropping into the back three, then the centre back pushing into the midfield, how it all shuffles across, and the centre mids can actually end up in the back three and the centre backs can end up in midfield. This leads us on to zone replacement. This usage of fluid zone replacement is what I believe makes Inter Milan one of the most unique teams of the modern era. Inzaghi wants his side to play in all 5 of the horizontal zones, much like a positional based system. However, what I find interesting is the relationism within those 5 horizontal zones, of which players can move and be free to replace each other in zones to make the same shape but with different personnel. Here is an example of where Bastoni has pushed forward in that left wing-back position, and DiMarco has therefore dropped into the zone left by Bastoni behind as a left centre-back. This is something they often do on that left-hand side. Here you can see Çalhanoğlu, the first white overall in the back line. Then you have the second white overall, which shows the wing-back and the wide centre-back for Inter Milan actually pushed higher up the pitch. This has still created that almost 4-1 or 4-2 shape, with one midfielder being higher than the first pivot player, but it's through zone replacement and different players being in different areas of the pitch. Having Çalhanoğlu in this deeper area allows him to be a good deep line playmaker, which even as he says here, he thinks he's the best playmaker right now. By being deeper, it allows Çalhanoğlu to get more touches on the ball and really stamp his authority in a game. Another thing to keep in mind for later in this video, look at the last name he mentions here as the best playmakers right now, especially from these deeper areas. Here is an example of that zone replacement out wide, with Bastoni in the left wing-back position, Martinez actually dropping in to basically the base of that 3 in a triangle, and DiMarco then making the run in behind into the channel where Martinez was. And that leads us on to the next part of this video, which is a zone replacement sequence that Inter Milan frequently use using wide diamonds. This is where you can see Inter Milan really flourish, as they create these wide diamond shapes using one of the centre-backs one of the wing-backs, a central midfielder, and Martinez usually as the dropping striker. Inzaghi's Milan side create the third most accurate crosses in Serie A, getting into these wide areas to cross the ball through these wide diamonds, which is really one of their key assets as a team. These wide diamonds really show how Inter Milan use their zone replacement and how fluid of a team they are with the combinations, the 1-2s, and the ability to be fluid and creative across every single zone of the pitch within a positional system with relationist approaches. Here's an example of this wide diamond. This wide diamond is configured with everybody in their sort of normal or natural position, with Bastoni at the base, DiMarco as the left wing back, Mkhitaryan in the middle, and then Lautaro Martinez in the striker. And here it is again in another example with the same 4 players and the same configuration with Bastoni at the base, but watch the movement of the midfielder as Martinez drags the run inward. This space that Martinez comes into allows the midfielder to make the run in behind and become the channel man, which is then allowing him to put the ball into the box, Martinez to make a run inside and them to attack the box. This actually ended in a goal. The main point to take away from these wide diamonds and the zone replacement within them is that you're trying to keep 4 players in different zones of the pitch at all times, having one out wide, another one run further on in the channel, and then 2 more inside. However, which players occupy this is based on how you can create the space with other runners making the space for others to move into. So it's all about some dragging and some dropping into the space. And I couldn't go on without mentioning the 2-man strike force of Lautaro Martinez and Marcus Thuram. Martinez has scored 23 goals this season and has 4 assists in his 26 games played in the Serie A, whilst Thuram has 10 goals and 10 assists in 27 games. But let's take a look at what makes them a very effective duo. The 2 strikers' ability to work in tandem and be together as one in a 2-striker system is extremely important. The movement of one striker can create a running option for the other striker. So in this instance, Martinez has dropped deep, which has then allowed Thuram to make a run in behind as one of the centre-backs has stepped out, and this has allowed the space for him to run in behind and run the channel. This is maximising the abilities of both strikers, one who wants to come deeper and get on the ball, and the other one who wants to run the channel and use their physicality to run the channels and create space for others. This can also work the other way, where Thuram pins the defenders back, allowing Martinez more space when he drops inside quickly to receive the ball, and he can then turn out and use that space that Thuram has crafted for him to then turn and attack. Now that we've spoke a lot about the in-possession parts of the game and the in-possession parts of Inzaghi's system, let's have a look at the defensive structures and the press, which is a mixture of man-to-man, but also dropping into a 5-3-2 block. In their man-to-man press, Inter Milan often look like they're in a 3-1-4-2 shape. The base of the shape is set by the 3 centre-backs and the single pivot of the 6. This now means that the 2 wing-backs can push on and they can go man-to-man to help the press. The aim for Inzaghi's side is to force the ball to go long when they do go man-to-man. When the press is triggered and they go man-to-man, they're making curved runs to force their opposition team to one side. Here's another example of Martinez curving his run, so it's forcing that player down that right-hand side of the pitch. This then means that when DiMarco jumps up from left wing-back to man-to-man mark their right-back, it can then mean Bastoni also pushes up behind him to then keep them in that area of the pitch, and that is their opportunity to win the ball back and break from there. Here is an example of where the man-to-man press actually creates an opportunity with a high turnover, which leads to Lautaro Martinez scoring a goal. Inter Milan force the second most high turnovers in the league, and they have only conceded 9 goals from open play, and this is down to their compact 5-3-2 block. Their mixture of man-to-man pressing to create high turnovers and create chances, but also the ability to drop into this very compact 5-3-2 and defend, only conceding 9 goals from open play in the league, this is what makes them one of the best defensive outfits in the world. So, could Inzaghi work at Chelsea? Here is a little configuration that I've made. A few of the names might not be what people want to see. I've left out a few names like Sterling, Gallagher. I think they could go this year in the summer. And I've put in a few other people that some people might not agree with in certain positions, such as Chilwell. But I think in a left wing-back system, he would be used. First of all, an exciting one. Let's speak about Enzo and how he compares to Çalhanoğlu in this Inter Milan team. By giving Fernandez the freedom to drop deep and play those high-quality passes, long-range passes, it would give him the chance to replicate what Çalhanoğlu is doing as a deep-lying playmaker for Inter Milan. As he said earlier, Enzo Fernandez is also one of the best at using this skill set from that area of the pitch. Çalhanoğlu plays over 2 key passes per 90, plays nearly 6 passes into the final third, plays 11.63 long passes and completes 7.73 of them per 90. And this is the exact skill set that Enzo Fernandez possesses. This ability to play long passes with high accuracy, the ability and the know-how of his passing IQ to know where players want the ball and to create from deep positions with that high passing range. The wide centre-backs and even the central centre-back in this team have to be able to drive forward with the ball, cross and pass the ball effectively, as they will often find themselves in the final third due to the zone replacement tactics. Therefore, they have to be comfortable across multiple zones rather than just their central defensive positions and be able to offer overloads out wide. The wing-backs have to be good in wide isolation, so they have to have a good mixture of dribbling as well as their defensive ability and ability to get up and down the pitch with their high energy. So somebody like Malo Gusto, who actually is very good 1v1 with his dribbling, he's very astute on the ball, he would be very good in this situation where he's getting into wide isolations to go 1v1 and then put the ball into the box. And again, they have to be comfortable across multiple zones. This is becoming a theme across the whole team. As we said earlier, with the forwards, they have to be able to work in tandem. They have to create their movements based on the other's movement, having one drop in and one go behind. One can drop deep and one can spearhead the team by pinning the defenders. This has to work in tandem. So those 2 forwards, it's very important they have a good relationship on the pitch. We saw this in pre-season with Mudryk and Jackson. We also saw this with Nkunku and Jackson, so that could work. We've also got Cole Palmer and other players that could easily slot into these positions. The main question would be for the likes of Mudryk and Madueke, these sort of 1v1 isolation wingers. Yes, they'd be good at wing-back because they'd be getting into those isolation points, but do they offer that same zone replacement and that ability to fill in as a centre-back, for example? If Bastoni pushed forward for Inter, DiMarco would push in. If you had Mudryk at left wing-back, for example, is he capable of the same thing? I'm not so sure. Same with Madueke on the right. Yes, it's only for short periods of time when they're replacing each other's zones, so it's not like he has to be able to play left centre-back, but his ability to fill that zone and the responsibilities that are within that zone is important. This is how it could look with a few signings though. A left wing-back could be an option to prioritise, another defender as well with the likes of Silva and probably Chalobah leaving, so maybe a right-footed defender who can play in the central zone, and obviously a striker looks to be on the cards as well. So these last images that I'm going to leave you with is how I think it could work in that 3-5-2 system across all 5 of the horizontal zones. This is how it would start the game in that 3-5-2 shape, but allowing Enzo to drop into the backline to create those shapes of 4 backs, but also those 3-2s. So in build-up, you're looking to create those 4-1s or those 3-2s that we spoke about earlier, those common build-up shapes. This would allow him to use that extensive passing range, picking out those wing-backs who are getting in behind, as you can see here, in those wide zones. You've then also got the forward who would be occupying the central zone. One of the other forwards would drop into a half space with one of the other midfielders. But then also when you sustain possession, one of the other midfielders could push up. So there's lots of ways that you could hold those shapes that we spoke about earlier that Inzaghi likes to hold. As those outside 8s surrounding Enzo, allowing him to be the dictator in the midfield, you'd have the likes of Caicedo, Lavia, Gallagher or Carney Chukwuemeka. Those sort of players I think would really work well with Enzo in this system. More physical profiles that cover more ground than Enzo around him allow them to do the dirty work on the outsides whilst he dictates from the middle of the pitch. They will be more box-to-box, pressing high up the pitch when you go man-to-man, but also recovering quickly around Enzo and making sure that he's not exposed as a lone CDM. I also think Chelsea have a very good set of defenders for this. Levi Colwill could definitely progress even more in the Bastoni type role because he's very good on the ball. He has an excellent passing range. He can cross a ball and he's even played at left back this season, much to a lot of people's disappointment. But he has now learned to occupy those higher areas, which would then also mean he's better at crossing across both zones, going from centre-back to left-back and helping to make those overloads out wide. And lastly, I think you could also see the best of Nicholas Jackson in this 2-striker setup. His ability to link play, run the channels and also create space for others would make him a perfect strike partner for whoever he was teamed up with, and I think this would really show if he was put into a 2-striker formation. So what do you make of Inzaghi's tactics, how they work at Inter Milan, and could you see them working at Chelsea? I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it could be a lot of fun.